Our new state police colonel here tonight.
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
You know, it just dawned on me right during the announcer segment there that I plan on talking about the culture of the state police a little bit later on with our new colonel, but that he's here is actually an improvement in culture. It just, you know, it's not like rocket science, but it just dawned on me because last colonel didn't show up. And that was a break in culture. So it'll be an interesting conversation with James Manni, our new head of the state police. I'm going to forego commentary on any. If I start in on some of the stuff over the weekend, even Tiger, I won't have any time for our esteemed guests. So I'm going to singularly focus on his role, a couple of key issues he's dealing with. In fact, 3 that are really important. And I'll tell you about that as we go. But I'll remind you of the headline and the decision to hire our new superintendent, and here's the background.
He has been an incredible leader in the town of Narragansett.
But now Jim Manni is leaving the top seat at Narragansett Town Hall to become another kind of leader.
Steady, quiet leader. I think that's what the state police needs.
Stephen O'Donnell would know. He once served as colonel of Rhode Island State Police. It was under his command Jim Manni was twice promoted, first to captain, then major. Now, the ultimate promotion by Governor Gina Raimondo. She's tapped Manni for colonel in light of Anna Sumpico's retirement announcement earlier this week.
The state police is a $135 million operation. It's not just what people perceive the state troopers on the road. That's part of it. But managing the organization is hard. It's not an easy job. He knows that. Certainly he'll be up for the task.
Manni retired from the state police in 2015 after 25 years with the organization. Experience, O'Donnell says, will bode well in this new position.
He was also a SWAT team commander, so he's respected in the ranks, that he understands the nuts and bolts of what happens on the street.
But Manni's experience is only part of what poises him for this new job. Narragansett Town Council President Susan Cicilline Bonanno was drawn to his character when he interviewed for the town manager position.
I was impressed by his honesty, his integrity, and I really thought that his skills to interact with people seemed really natural. I think that the governor made the right choice, and I wish him the very best.
And so the colonel is here. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Dan.
On the job, how many days now?
7 weeks.
7 weeks. It's almost 2 months.
That's right.
You walk with a skip in your step. It seems like you are really happy about this.
I am. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, congratulations. Why is this making you so happy?
It was my
not the appearance on Dan York State of Mind,
that's,
but
that too. It was my
well, this consummates all of the excitement, I'm sure. No, but tell me why this means so much to you.
It was my lifelong dream to become a Rhode Island State Trooper. I'd want to be a police officer at age 14 and a state trooper at about 15, 16. I made it onto the state police after a long, windy road. And every young trooper, I'm not young anymore, but every young trooper dreams of one day leading this tremendous organization. And when I got that opportunity, I jumped at it.
Is that true? I mean, the 200 plus rank and file that have been consistently employed by the citizens of the state, just about every trooper who goes in dreams to lead, or do they have other? I don't think everybody who joins an organization dreams to be the CEO of it. But that's where you think the culture is?
I do. I think that the vast majority of troopers who are there really enjoy the job and one day dream of leading the agency that they love. You know, career paths change now and then, and I didn't think I would have that opportunity, but I was offered the opportunity.
All right, we'll talk about the culture a little bit later on, and some of the things that Steve O'Donnell had to say. And all that, but why don't we jump into some issues, because you've got some stuff going on, and then we'll kind of broaden it out as we go. Let's get right into this marijuana thing. This has been like this, right? It's been, you know, the Rhode Island Association of Police Chiefs not happy with the tempo, so to speak, of the transition to perhaps legalizing marijuana. You have, I think, taken a practical approach to this, trying to figure out the pluses and the minuses, right? It's still fluid, and I don't think the legislature is ready to pull the trigger based on what they're telling us over the last week or so. What's your gut on this?
So let me clarify my position first. I've never tried marijuana or any illegal drug. I'm not advocating for anyone to use marijuana, but I am looking at this from a practical point of view.
But why do you think it's important to tell us that you've never used marijuana?
Well, I think that's important. So, people know I'm not a hypocrite. I've never tried it. I really don't know what it's about, but I just wanted to, I'm pretty proud of that. But
okay.
So I'm not advocating for the use of marijuana. I'm looking at this from a practical point of view, in that I don't try and reinvent the wheel. I went to the Massachusetts State Police and asked them when it was legalized, what was done right, what was done wrong. And Massachusetts State Police was not involved in the process of determining if there were enough resources to manage this. So when I testified, really I was testifying that, if this comes to Rhode Island, that law enforcement, not just the state police, needs the resources to manage this issue.
Because the Commonwealth thinks, like, it feels like, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but it feels like they think they're chasing their own tail on this thing a little bit. Yes?
Well, I can't speak for what the consensus is in Massachusetts, but speaking to the superintendent.
A lot of turbulence.
Yeah, well, there's definitely a learning curve to this, for sure.
And we're learning more and more. Sid Wardell from the Rhode Island Association of Police Chiefs literally was on the radio with me a handful of weeks ago from a seminar out in the West. I think he was in Colorado somewhere, where that police force and others were saying, you know what, be careful what you ask for, because we said yes and we're trying to clean up the mess behind it. Again, I'm paraphrasing, but that's the general sense I got in auto accidents, fatalities, all those kind of things, correct?
I would say yes, that is correct. That's why it's so important to get ahead of this. The troopers I speak to on the road, the ones that have their finger on the pulse, the ones that really are out there, and in an unscientific way have told me this. 1 out of 5 people that they pull over for a motor vehicle stop is under the influence or impaired by marijuana. That's 20% of the motor vehicle stops, either legal marijuana, illegal marijuana, edible marijuana, or medical marijuana. So whether Rhode Island adopts this, legalizes it, it's the issue is that it's already here, and we need to address it, and we need the resources.
Meaning?
Well, one of the biggest resources that law enforcement needs as a tool is drug recognition experts. It's a very labor-intensive type of training. It takes about 3 weeks. It's expensive, $3,000 to $5,000 per police officer. Some of it's out of state. Because the only way to detect marijuana usage is through observation. There's no chemical test for it. So that is one of the resources that's needed. There are only 68 drug recognition experts in the state of Rhode Island. 19 of them are on the state police. And to give you a comparison, there's 224 troopers in Rhode Island, 2,100 in Massachusetts. They only have 27 drug recognition experts. So they're really behind the 8 ball.
So what happens on a stop?
Well, there's no differentiation between intoxicating liquor or drugs with impairment. So what happens is it's one charge. So it's either proven by observations by the police officer, trooper, or it's proven by a chemical test. So that's the issue right there.
The chemical test happens at the barracks?
For a intoxicating liquor, it could be a portable breath test at the scene, and then
the Intoxilizer 5000. I mean, it feels like going back to the old days, right? I mean, that's you blow in, and they've got that back at the barracks, and there's all sorts of ways to test for that. I think, it's kind of like, it's not funny. Drinking and driving is not funny, but it's like an old-fashioned, understood expectation for people on the road. The Police Chiefs Association was also telling me that they're really miffed of the idea that even for those who have the medical marijuana ID cards, that unless you're pulling somebody over between 8 and 4 o'clock in work time, you literally can't check the verification of their enrollment in that program.
That's correct.
Yeah, so, okay, so on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being it's a complete ill-prepared mess and we shouldn't get into it, 10 being, all right, we're ready to take it on. Where are we?
Well, that's a political answer. I'm not saying we should take it on or not take it on. What I'm saying is, if we take it on,
from a law enforcement point of view.
You mean the issues that I've talked to you
Your
about?
relaxed, your preparedness and confidence that, okay, we're ready. 0 being, no way we ain't ready. 10 being, we're ready. Where are we?
We're right in the middle. I think we're halfway there as being ready to address this. But we need,
So we shouldn't pass legislation if the superintendent of state police says we're halfway there.
No, I disagree with that. We should be all the way there. We should be ready if this legislation.
That's what I was saying. We should not pass legislation to completely legalize marijuana when our superintendent of the state police says we're only halfway ready.
Well, once again, let me back up on that. This Article 20 that we're talking about, the legalization portion, the resource portion, if we get that influx of money to come in, we will be there. We would have $850,000 to train a series of drug recognition experts.
Is it in the budget?
I believe it is. I believe if this passed, it would be in the budget. The $850,000 would, yes. But the 25% share of the tax revenue, I'm not sure how that plays out. But the $850,000 would be in the budget if it's passed.
Uptime, based on that revenue being provided to you, uptime to get your troopers ready is what?
Several months.
Okay. That should advise us on that particular notion. When we come back, we've got a real battle on guns, and the colonel is certainly expert in that. Stay with us. All right, so if you think marijuana is a long conversation, how about gun control? There are 3 tiers to the proposal the governor and the attorney general are supporting. One is to cap ammunition, one is to change the classification available on the street, and the other is this conversation about those who have concealed carry permits to be 1,000 feet away from a school. You have testified supporting all 3 components. You are in a unique position. You are no anti-gun guy by any stretch.
That's correct.
Give me a short answer on your background, first of all, so people know.
Lifelong gun owner. I use them recreationally. I competed occasionally. I'm an NRA member, and I believe in the Second Amendment.
And you were on the top of a commission that the governor put together to try to figure this thing out.
That's correct.
And legislation aside, you came up with what specificity in terms of recommending what our policy should be on arms here?
Well, there were numerous recommendations given to the governor. The book was about this thick. But one of the biggest ones was the firearms in schools. That's the one that seems to be drawing the most attention.
Yeah, I guess it does. So I'm interestingly ambivalent, which is an oxymoron, obviously, but I think I understand capping the number of rounds and gun classification. I think most people are tired of arguing about that. You agree?
I think so.
All right, so what's this big to do? By the way, the Speaker of the House doesn't seem like he's too high on this idea of preventing concealed carry permit holders from being around the schools. Why do you support that?
Well, let me back up a minute. You stated it was 1,000 feet. The bill was the firearm within 1,000 feet of the school. The bill has 300 feet.
300 yards?
300 feet.
300 feet?
1,000 feet is the federal standard.
Ah, sorry. Okay.
But that is an area for compromise, and we can discuss that too, because the concern
is that space between 300 and 1,000 feet actually important?
Well, it is, because even the 300 feet is important, because the argument is many of the schools in the state of Rhode Island are within 300 feet of a roadway. So if you're driving past the school with a concealed weapon permit, are you automatically in violation? Mm-hmm. And that seems to be the sticking point on this legislation.
I don't know if that's the only sticking point. I mean, being able to go to your kid's ball game and having a weapon on you that you've carried for years legally, and God forbid maybe an asset in a situation, that's also part of the sticking point. You and the Attorney General have this informed, how do I say this respectfully, informed but dramatic hypothetical worry about this thing.
Well, I wouldn't characterize it as that.
I know you wouldn't. So that's going to be the fun of our conversation.
That's going to be the debate. So So I am looking at this from a unique perspective. As a gun owner, as a law enforcement officer, so I'm really looking at it from three perspectives. As a professional law enforcement officer, as a former municipal leader, and as a parent. As a law enforcement officer, where I was in charge of a SWAT team, it's very important to know that if you're going into a situation where there's an active shooter or a firearm or so forth, that you know exactly what's inside that building. There's a valid concern among law enforcement officers that there would be friendly fire if they went in to a call regarding a firearm in a school. The people with the carry permits that we talk about, and I have a carry permit that was issued to me when I retired, the training is just okay. You don't receive any training, really, you're just a qualification. You're not trained in active shooter, decision shooting, scenario-based shooting, night firing, none of the above. So, you know, having a carry permit doesn't mean you're really ready for that type of situation.
Listen, it seems, though, that that part of the bill is DOA. That's what we're hearing, at least in the House of Representatives. That disappoint you?
It's a very polarizing issue, Dan, and everyone has strong opinions, and I respect the House's position and opinion, and I hope they respect mine.
Let's talk about 911 for a second. You're into a complete, I don't know, is it fair to say overhaul? We have a headline here. There's e-training. Eric, if we can put that up. Thank you. This is a project for you right now, correct? 911
Yes.
administration.
So a lot of people don't know this, but as the superintendent of the state police, I'm also the director of public safety. So there are 7 agencies that are in control, that are overseen by the director of public safety. One of them is E911, Enhanced 911. And I'm doing a top to bottom assessment of each of the 7 agencies, to include the state police and 911, to see what resources are there and where we need to be.
Have we fallen down? There's this one case where a little one, you know, the 911 operator reportedly was not able to navigate the situation. That was in recent history. Are our 911 operators fully trained? Are you confident with their skill set right now?
There's always room for improvement, and we have 34 telecommunicators, we have 8 supervisors. They're a tremendous workforce. They put their heart and soul into this. But there is always room for improvement. So we're looking for a higher certification than what they already have. It's called EMD, Emergency Medical Dispatch.
Right, and that's going to cost some dough.
About $170,000.
And that's in the budget?
I spoke to the leadership, and this is something we're working towards to see if we get in the budget.
But we also have some bigger nut to crack here that there's more technology out there when it comes to 911 that the state doesn't have. And what's interesting, there's an FCC letter that I actually just gave the Colonel a peek at prior to this segment, and he hasn't had a chance to read it, but it was sent to 3 governors who are, in my words, ripping off 911 not money for their general funds, you know, money that's assessed on your bill, fees, 911 fees. Now, the General Assembly renamed it, trying to get cute on this the other day. We had Dr. Fine and Robin Giacomo, who is from North Providence, and this is her pet issue. They were on the show a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about the need for that which is, you know, charged to us to be put into the system. Your final thought on what we need to do about this?
We can do better than this. We can take this money and use it to promote the health and safety of all Rhode Islanders instead of seeing it disappear.
I would like them to, A, dedicate a fund, B, create an independent body of oversight with all the integral parts of the state government that are involved, and C, create a 911 advisory board with members of the community, municipal affairs.
In terms of how the money is used.
Correct.
We need that?
The advisory board? Yes. So it's required by statute. And when I first got on, I realized, it was brought to my attention, the advisory board hadn't met in several years. So that's one of the things we're working to get on right now.
Is this a political question or a managerial question for you? Actually, former Colonel O'Donnell used to argue me that, you know, we didn't have to take all the money from the bill and put it into 911 because you need it for other resources. Are you of the same mindset, or do you understand that people are not happy being billed for something that is being used to probably 50%?
It's a huge political question, and I'm really not going to venture into the political answer. But I will tell you this, that I'm going to I'm going to provide the highest level of service possible in 911. The people expect it and they demand it. And I'll share this with you. On last Tuesday, we did a story with the Hummel report in 911, and we walked around the telecommunicators and were watching them. The following morning, I was calling 911 from my house because my wife had a medical issue.
Oh, God.
And she's okay.
Good.
But I definitely had to get a rescue there, and I had to bring her to a hospital. So the level of service I got that morning as a citizen, not as a superintendent of state police, because they didn't know who I was tremendous. They were engaged, they asked me the right questions, and the call was transferred, and they kept on the line. That's the level of service I want to continue on and get to the highest level. That's why they need those certifications.
All right, we'll get more on that as we go. On culture for a couple of minutes when we come back. Stay with us.
Here in my official capacity as the Superintendent of Rhode Island State Police and the Director of Public Safety for the state of Rhode Island, and as a representative of Governor Raimondo's administration. I'm here in my official capacity as the Superintendent of Rhode Island State Police and the Director of Public Safety for the state of Rhode Island. I'll be testifying in support of the adult use Article 20 that we have in front of us. And I also represent Governor Raimondo's administration.
So I gave you a hard time a few weeks ago when you testified twice and introduced yourself as a representative of the Raimondo administration. We don't have a lot of time to talk about this, but I've always felt that the people of this state, so respecting the state police, want an independent law enforcement mindset there. Can you clear up this situation?
I knew you were going to play that. So I'm here to tell you that those are my words and I stand behind them. No one told me to say any of that.
The governor didn't say that's how you introduced
Absolutely
yourself.
not.
That wasn't part of your hire.
No, it was not. I was giving my testimony in my official capacity as a superintendent of state police, and I'm also part of her administration. I was not there in my personal time, and I was not going rogue. And that was the reason why I stated the way I stated.
Right. Will you continue to introduce yourself that way?
Probably not.
Because?
Because, I guess whatever perception it gave, that's not the perception I want.
Got it. The former colonel didn't do shows, or it was pulling teeth. Thank you for coming. Give me your 30 seconds, because all I have, on the culture of the state police and how you want to interact with this community.
So the state police motto is in the service of the state, and that was since 1925. We all wear it on our badge, on our hat. That epitomizes what the state police is. We serve the people of this state. It's their state police. It's not mine. It's not anyone or theirs. It's the people, yours. So it's a tradition-based paramilitary organization that we strive on integrity and service.
Meaning, you'll be here when we ask, within reason.
Yes, I will.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
The new colonel of the state police. Final word when we come back. I firmly believe that the Rhode Island State Police took a hit in terms of its brand over the last couple of years, simply because of the communication problem, not about the work the troopers were doing in the field and their heroic work, throughout the state. I think the last bus of integrity in the state of Rhode Island, which is challenged by that concept, has always been the Rhode Island State Police, and I am bullish on this new leadership. Looking forward to it. We'll see you tomorrow and on the radio at 3 till 6 on WPRO. Goodbye.